Monday, September 11th. What can you say about September 11th? Everybody take time today, not only remember what happened today, but for those that do remember, what happened in the week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks following the actual event. For those that do remember, it was a whole different vibe. The whole country was just a different vibe. A lot of the stupid arguments and things that we've been seeing lately holds a lot of contrast when you look at the two. Everybody just take a few minutes today and just ponder that difference. Kind of in the same spirit, why I'm here. Colombia. What's happening? What are you doing to yourself? What didn't happen around here in the last week or two? We have property disputes and school superintendents bailing out. The incident that happened on Walnut Street. Not going to discuss it. Not for me to discuss. I think anything that can actually be said about that's probably already been said and been said too many times. It happened. It's being handled the way that things are rightfully set up to be handled. So, but it's caused a lot of people to be very, what's the word I want to use? Frustrated. I see people's frustrations. Bill Preston, to give him some recognition, some of the things he's had to say this week. A lot of frustration. Rick Fisher, trying to get, just trying to get people together in a group, organized, just on the base idea of, like, let's come up with some ideas. And, I know he was feeling very frustrated too, and it's a very real frustration, but just, especially to, to everybody, but especially to those two guys. You're not just speaking to nobody. I know a lot of times we talk, we feel like we're just throwing words out into this vast open internet full of porn and dating and angry political conversations, and we feel like our words are lost. Not always. People hear it. It's a lot of the same frustration. A lot of people feel a lot of the same frustration. What can we do? What should we do? And that's why I think the basic idea of Mr. Fisher's, let's get, and he said the same thing I'll say. I don't have the answers. I have a lot of questions. And I think when you ask questions, when enough people ask questions and ask the right questions, then you come to the right answers. And I think that's how things get done with a more cooperative spirit than, oh, we're really angry, let's shake our fist in the air. But so then there's just the conversation of, well, what are the problems? What do we need? What can we change? Everybody has ideas, and I think that is where we're going to have to start with anything. It has to be grassroots, and everybody has to be involved. If you look at one thing that successful towns, municipalities, cities have in common, everybody has something that they can rally behind, something in common, something they can all identify with and say, this is ours, and hold it up to everybody else. And this is something that we can be proud of, and this is what we can identify with. We don't have that here. I don't think we've had that here for quite a long time. What could it possibly be that could do that? Again, I don't know. I know what it's not. I know it's not tourism. I don't think that our governing authorities at this point have a good grasp of what we need to do as a whole. I think there's a very pigeonholed focus on how we can grow some sort of a reputation outside of ourselves. Well, we're doing that. It's not a good one. There's definitely a very real need for change in not just the leadership, but the leadership style. I don't want to blame any one person. I don't want to blame council or any one person sitting on council. I don't want to blame the mayor. I don't want to blame this. It's the entire setup. Your municipal government should represent the same thing that your federal government should represent, and that is a valid cross-section of who you are as a constituency. If you look at your council, and specifically those individual bodies that make the important decisions, I don't think the majority of you would feel that those are people who actively represent you and the majority of us here. And that's because you're correct. They don't. You know, people throw around corruption and favoritism, and you don't even have to go that far. We are lucky that we don't even have to go that far. We don't have to worry about that because just the system as a whole kind of needs to evolve. There was some discussion a few weeks back about new people on council. Some new blood was the phrase that somebody used. That's a very good start. But it can't start with just one person. And it can't be based on, I don't like this that's happening and I want this to change, so I'm going to run for an office and get these people behind me, and because that's not really representing a valid cross-section either. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to really be in the place to solve any actual problems. Tourism is our main goal and our main focus, it seems, from the borough government's perspective. And it's never going to grow us. It's good for a reputation if you can do it right. It's sometimes good for money, again, if you can do it right. But it doesn't change our internal identity at all. So meanwhile, from a leadership perspective, that identity itself is just left to stagnate. What do you identify with as living in Columbia Borough? A lot of different things. None of them are common. A lot of them aren't very good. But we don't have to get into those right now. So at one point the idea was discussed. Somebody floated out me being on borough council. And I would never say it was a bad idea. I actually got a few votes a couple elections back just based on, hey, vote for me. It'd be funny. It worked. I'm a sledgehammer. That would require more of a scalpel. And again, it's not about one person. We need a group of people that can think outside of the box and focus on things that haven't been focused on in quite some time. And that being in particular what makes us Columbia. When you have unified goals, for example, you're going to have unified people. Something to rally behind. Something to say, this is what we are. Why do we invest so much in tourism? We talk about, the borough wants to buy these buildings up, buy this building and we'll make a hotel, we'll buy this building and we'll do that. We have a ton of slum properties in the borough right now, and people love to point that out. What about some sort of a non-for-profit housing authority? Buy up some of these properties, reinvest in the community, get local people to volunteer the work, train others while they do it, fix these houses up, take those homes, and you can rent to own them to people who might otherwise be crowding up some of these less than desirable apartment buildings that, quite frankly, upset a lot of people. That'd be something to invest in, right? That'd be something to say, look what we accomplished, right? And that's just one idea. And I'm just some guy that complains a lot on the internet. It's a pretty good idea. So why hasn't your leadership presented something of that like to you? Because that's what needs to change. There needs to be a commitment and an investment by the majority. And I think by this point, the people who get on the internet day to day and just vent their frustrations. And folks, I think you are the majority. The possibilities there. Any place can turn around. Don't believe me? Ask Harlem. Ask Harlem in the 1980s compared to Harlem in the 1990s. That was a community grabbing its own bootstraps and pulling itself up. And then we're talking about Harlem. This ain't Harlem. It seems rough sometimes. It seems rough some days, especially when the only thing the news pays attention to that happens in Columbia is the bad stuff. So there's hope here. That's just my little take on everything that's happening at the moment. I don't have the answers. I might have one. You might have one. And I think you might have one. And you had one. And that guy way back there, he has one too. Let's bring them all together and see what sticks. You folks have a good day.